And this bleak winter morning, it looks as if the city some call Bodymore Murderland is about to claim another victim.
Baltimore City 911.
I got a serious emergency.
The caller is 52-year-old Keith Smith.
Some panhandler just stabbed my wife.
He says they've been driving down the street in East Baltimore when his wife, 54-year-old Jacquelyn Smith, saw a woman with a baby begging on a street corner.
When Jacqueline spotted the baby, she asked him to pull over.
My wife tried to give her some money, and a guy came over, and he started stabbing my wife.
He's completely shocked.
They snatched her pocketbook and snatched her necklace off her neck.
And then they were gone.
I jumped out the car and he ran.
Okay, sir, you're still at the location right now, right?
I'm heading to the hospital.
He's hysterical, and he's trying to get his wife help.
I'm gonna go to Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is only a few blocks away, has one of the best trauma centers in the country.
While Keith's adult daughter tends to Jacqueline from the back seat, the dispatcher directs Keith to the emergency room.
You should better pull straight up and they'll be able to help you out.
But only if they're able to make it in time.
How's your wife doing?
She's not talking, man. She's not talking. She's not talking, man.
Oh my God. You stabbed her.
54-year-old Jacquelyn Smith had always been a generous and compassionate woman.
She's a very giving person, a very kind person.
A Bible-believing Christian woman.
She was very involved in the church.
She was also an accomplished career woman.
Jacquelyn Smith was a graduate of North Carolina A&T University, where she majored in engineering.
She's working as an electrical engineer, making good money.
She was just someone who a lot of people respected and wanted to be around.
Good morning, Jacqueline.
The only hitch in her life was the failure of her marriage, but she didn't let that stop her.
Okay.
Jacqueline is someone that has progressed in her career. She's been able to manage raising 2 children successfully, even getting past the trauma of divorce and successfully rise to the top.
Team, well, okay.
Keith was tall, dark, handsome. Jacqueline was knocked off her feet.
That first dance soon led to a first date, and then another.
They had a lot of different things in common.
They both had grown children who were entering adulthood themselves.
And like Jacqueline, Keith was eager to make a fresh start.
Later on in your years, you don't want to wait too long to start a new relationship. So shortly after, about 3 months later, he's proposing to her on Christmas Eve.
Oh, there's one more thing that I had.
Okay.
I know it hasn't been long, but just wondering if you would.
Sometimes a quick proposal can give you pause, but not for Jacqueline.
This is the win that she was looking for.
Keith moved into Jacqueline's townhouse in suburban Baltimore, and they began building a life together.
This is the moment that Jacqueline has been working hard towards. She is happy and content.
She's feeling like her prayers were answered, you could say.
But now Keith is driving through East Baltimore, desperate for help, as Jacqueline bleeds out in the seat beside him.
Oh my God. They freaking stabbed her.
His wife, being the kind-hearted woman she was, rolled down her window to give some panhandlers some money. And the panhandler reaches inside the car, robs her, and then starts stabbing her violently.
It happened so damn fast.
After the stabbing, the dispatcher guides Keith to Johns Hopkins University Hospital.
If you're making a right on the Wolf, the Hopkins is on your right when you get down there at, it should be Orleans.
Okay, I see it now. I see it.
But finding the hospital doesn't mean the crisis is over.
It is a big, big campus. It's not like a small country hospital. We are talking many blocks, many buildings.
anyone, even in their right mind and calm, is going to have difficulty finding the exact entrance of the building.
I'm in the wrong side.
Keith is frantic.
Finally, after several agonizing minutes circling the sprawling medical complex, Keith manages to find the ER.
Please, I need help. My wife just got stabbed by some panhandler. She's in the car.
Then, as the ER staff rushed Jacqueline inside, Keith broke down completely.
Oh my God, baby. Hold on, baby. Hold on, baby.
Jacquelyn Smith had finally found happiness with her second husband, Keith.
She was looking for love second time around, and she was able to find that love.
It just looks like the perfect setup for both of these people that are in their 50s finally finding love and making this thing work.
But now, in the early morning hours of December 1st, 2018, Keith has just rushed Jacqueline to a Baltimore hospital.
Hold on, Jackie, hold on. Help! Help!
Help us!
Hold on, baby.
Come on, please hurry.
Please, please.
They pulled over so Jacqueline could give money to a panhandler. And when she rolled the window down, the man who was with a woman attacked Jacqueline.
All right, man.
Jackie!
Jackie, hold on, Jackie. Oh, God.
Nurses at the ER immediately rush her into emergency surgery.
What is going to happen to the love of his life?
By 1 a.m., he has the answer.
The nurse came back out to talk to Keith, and he could tell by the look on her face it was not good news.
We did everything we could for her.
No.
I'm so sorry.
No.
There was nothing they could do.
When Keith sits down with Baltimore homicide detectives several hours later, he's still trying to contain his grief.
He's playing it over and over in his mind, blaming himself, and the tears just stream down his face.
You didn't do anything wrong, okay? I should have known. You can't blame yourself for this.
Once Keith regains his composure, he walks the investigators through what happened.
He and Jacqueline had gone to East Baltimore to celebrate his daughter Valeria's birthday.
They went to dinner at the VFW. They were enjoying themselves.
We had a beautiful time, man.
He says it was almost midnight when they left the VFW and headed east towards Valeria's home.
They were giving her a ride before they headed back to their home in Aberdeen.
According to Keith, while they were driving, his wife spots a panhandler.
We stopped at the stop sign. There's a girl over there.
She's holding a sign that says, "Can't feed my baby, need help."
She was holding the baby, and I was like, wow, how you gonna be out here with a baby this late at night?
He described a woman in her 20s, somebody who might have been addicted to drugs.
Not that it mattered to Jacqueline.
He said Jacqueline was so moved and troubled by this that she wanted to give her some money.
Look, pull over.
Okay.
Hey, sweetie, how are you?
She called the girl over.
Here, God bless you, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, the guy just walked over. Yeah, man, can I thank your wife, man?
He described a man in his 30s who was wearing a heavy jacket with a goatee.
But according to Keith, when the man leaned in the window, it wasn't to say thank you.
The man grabbed her necklace, grabbed her wallet, and began stabbing her.
I was in shock. I couldn't believe it.
He doesn't know what to do.
What did the knife look like? If you could tell, I know these things happen so quickly. I don't even know. That's okay. That's okay. I don't even know. So you just saw the motion?
He's not able to describe the murder weapon for the police.
When the stabbing occurred, what happened next? Did they just start running? They started, he snapped her necklace off and grabbed her pocketbook and ran.
That was about all the information the detectives were going to get from Keith.
Them no weapons. No weapons, man.
He starts to break down in front of the officers again.
I just pulled it off. I should have never let her did that, man.
In those moments, you're thinking, I'm the husband. I'm supposed to protect my wife, and I wasn't able to do that.
All right, we're going to talk to your daughter real quick, then we can get you guys home, okay?
They're just trying to get as much information as they can, as quickly as they can, to aid their investigation.
When the detectives follow up with Keith's daughter, Valeria, her account corroborates her father's.
This girl came up to the car, she was asking for money, and I wasn't paying no mind. It wasn't until this guy came over that it caught my attention.
She was able to see everything that happened to her stepmother.
He came to the car and he was like, yeah, thank you, ma'am, and just started stabbing her. And it was literally 2 seconds, and they were gone. She was just laying there, she's like, oh, it was just terrible.
However, in addition to confirming her father's story, Valeria also offers up a clue that may help find the killers.
She has seen which way the attackers ran.
She's pretty sure they ran off toward the basketball courts.
She thought they were headed to the Latrobe homes.
That's the project right there.
According to Jacquelyn Smith's stepdaughter, the panhandlers who stabbed the 54-year-old electrical engineer fled in the direction of a Baltimore housing project.
One of the things about traumatic incidents, people can have different perceptions of what actually occurred. But in this particular scenario, you had a rather consistent story, so detectives felt like they had some pretty good leads.
However, before heading to the housing project, the detectives have Keith Smith's car towed to the crime lab.
They take the vehicle to search for DNA and other clues as to what exactly occurred that evening.
Then the detectives stop for a look at the street corner where the deadly encounter occurred.
Valley and Chase is in a community with mostly vacant homes. There aren't a lot of people there.
This isn't a typical area where people come to ask for money or food.
But is it the ideal place for an ambush?
Not only were there no witnesses around, the corner wasn't covered by any of the police surveillance cameras.
The detectives spend a few minutes combing the area for evidence.
They're looking for a murder weapon. They're looking for some signs that says there was a struggle.
They were also hoping to find Jacqueline's purse.
Oftentimes, criminals want to get rid of it, get what you can out of it as quickly as possible, then discard it.
Unable to find a discarded knife or purse, the detectives make their way to the Latrobe Homes housing project.
The almost 700-unit complex, built in the 1940s, is one of Baltimore's oldest public housing developments.
They canvassed the area, asking questions. They did not find anyone that matched the description that Valeria and Keith gave of the two people.
Reviewing the housing authority's security footage from the night of the stabbing also fails to turn up anyone fitting the suspect's description.
Maybe she got it wrong, and they weren't heading toward the projects.
Latrobe Homes an apparent dead end, the detectives try a different approach.
They put a trace on Jacqueline's credit cards.
While the detectives search for Jacqueline's killers, her murder becomes big news in Baltimore.
There's lots of media attention and media frenzy. It's all over the news, and it's really beginning to cause concern for the community.
This is a crime where anyone could have been a victim. That's what was so scary to the community. Often, homicides will happen in the city because somebody is involved in illegal activity, but panhandling, that's something that any citizen could fall victim to by simply trying to help someone.
It really created a level of fear in the community that wasn't existent previously.
The fear only amplifies after the story goes from local tragedy to national headline.
Oprah Winfrey got hold of this story, and she retweeted it to her 40 million plus followers on Twitter.
She's given out money to panhandlers thousands of times. But now she's going to think twice about whether she rolls down that window. That's the impact that it had across the country.
You have people from all over viewing these people who need help as dangerous.
We have been socialized to have a fear of unhoused individuals. And this story played into those fears.
Much of the media's attention centers on Keith.
He's doing a lot of press. He's talking to the media about what happened, and he's trying to get action.
He believes that the panhandlers are the reason that he's lost the love of his life, and he wants something done about it.
This is a husband who wants to make sure no other family experiences what they've experienced.
He wanted there to be a law passed against panhandling in the city.
He wants to name it Jacqueline's Law.
As the debate about panhandlers rages, the Baltimore police may be on the verge of catching Jacqueline's killer.
Yes, ma'am. Can I help you?
A couple of days into this investigation, police received what they believe is a great lead.
The same day that Oprah tweets about the case, a woman approaches an officer sitting in his patrol car outside a Baltimore shopping center.
The woman comes forward saying that she had been calling the tip line but couldn't get through.
She's been trying to get through to let them know, hey, look, I've got a potential lead in this case.
The panhandler murder?
Yeah, that panhandler.
Okay.
I believe I know who did it, and it wasn't no panhandler.
She believed a gentleman by the name of Damon Booth could be responsible.
The woman tells the officer that Damon Booth has been committing armed robberies in the Latrobe Homes area.
Latrobe Homes, of course, was the housing project that the killers were heading toward after the murders.
And that's not the only thing to suggest the tipster may be right.
And does Damon live in Latrobe Homes?
No, he doesn't live there, but his girlfriend lives there.
Okay.
She lives in the housing project with her mom.
Is this the couple that set up Jacqueline and committed this murder?
Petty thief named Damon Booth.
Police further learned from this tipster that Damon Booth has a girlfriend, and the girlfriend happens to live in Latrobe Homes.
Latrobe Homes was the housing project that was a few blocks away from the East Baltimore Street corner where the murder occurred.
Putting two and two together, you have a woman who was posing on the corner with this baby and a guy who comes up from the shadows and commits this crime, and they both flee towards Latrobe Homes.
Everything about the couple fits what Jacqueline's husband, Keith, and the daughter told detectives about the murder.
This is sounding like we're getting very close to cracking this case.
Thanks, officer. Appreciate it. Thanks.
When detectives pull Damon's rap sheet, it looks like they're even closer.
They find out that he does have a criminal record and that he spent 5 years in prison for armed robbery.
Reviewing the details of his armed robbery conviction also raises a big red flag for detectives.
He, in fact, held a knife to someone's throat.
Once the knife comes up, now they're really looking into him.
They may have found the culprit.
When detectives bring Booth in for questioning, he denies any involvement in Jacqueline's murder.
He said, I wasn't even in the area. I don't know what you're talking about.
I never even heard of this woman.
Her murder's all over the news.
Man, I don't even watch TV.
Damon did admit that his girlfriend lived in Latrobe Homes, but he never went to her apartment.
Why is that?
Her mom. She don't like me.
Damon tells investigators that he's not welcome around his girlfriend Tanya's home.
According to Damon, that's why he was nowhere near the crime scene when the stabbing occurred.
We got a room in a motel out on Pulaski Highway.
Which motel?
I forgot the name. It's just past Highland Avenue.
If Damon was telling the truth, that was more than 2 miles from the crime scene.
You were there all night?
Yeah, I was.
Damon tells the investigators that Tanya went to get food around 10 o'clock, but that was it. Otherwise, they were in the motel for the remainder of that evening.
You're free to go.
When detectives bring Damon's girlfriend Tanya in for questioning, she confirms their alibi.
She says she only left out once that night to get something to eat.
I walked like a block down the road to get some food.
What time was that?
About 10.
They give a consistent story.
Detectives were not about to take their word for it, though.
Thank you.
After talking to Tanya, they follow up at the motel where they supposedly spent the night.
Detectives are able to look at surveillance video. They're able to check the guest registry.
The footage corroborates Damon and Tanya's story. It shows them checking in, and it does not show Damon checking out until the following morning.
There's no way they were going to be able to be over at Valley and Chase where this murder occurred.
They may fit the description, but they were nowhere near that crime scene.
Their hot tip turns out to be a dud, and the forensic results from Keith's car are equally disappointing.
When the investigators get the forensics back, there are no fingerprints belonging to anyone other than Keith, Valeria, and Jacqueline.
Now, that's not completely unusual because we're talking about someone who reached inside the car, snatched the necklace, snatched the purse, and stabbed her to death.
So, of course, there wouldn't be any fingerprints inside of the car.
But just when the investigation is running out of steam, things heat up.
The investigators get notified that someone made 3 charges on Jacqueline's credit cards.
They traced the use of the card to 3 juveniles.
Obviously, none of the kids fit the description of Jacqueline's killers.
So how do they end up with her credit cards?
They say they found her purse at a local bus stop.
Knowing nothing about the murder, they'd taken the credit card that was left inside the purse and gone on a spending spree.
After talking to the kids, the detectives head to the bus stop where they reported finding the purse.
That wasn't far from the scene of the crime.
Suspecting the killers passed by the bus stop as they fled the scene, the detectives pull footage from the various city surveillance cameras along the most likely routes.
They're looking at numerous surveillance videos, 27 different cameras.
You kind of can string together things. They might not necessarily point to a specific area, but there is no doubt within a couple blocks, you're going to run across a city watch camera.
As the detectives review the footage from the night of the murder, they once again hit a dead end.
There's no one in any of the footage that matches the description of the perpetrators described by Keith and his daughter Valeria.
However, as they review footage from closer to the crime scene, they notice something else.
None of the video footage reflects Keith's car being in the vicinity.
We're talking about 27 cameras, and the car doesn't show up anywhere.
It was not even along the route from the crime scene to the hospital.
None of the surveillance footage corroborates their story.
After scouring hours of video surveillance looking for the panhandlers who allegedly killed Jacquelyn Smith and stole her purse, detectives have made a surprising discovery.
Not only was there no footage of the killers, there was no footage of her husband's car.
The entire route, investigators checked the cameras and were unable at any point to see Keith, Valeria, their vehicle, or either panhandler.
Had Keith and his daughter Valeria simply made a mistake about the route they took to the hospital?
Maybe they get one street mixed up with another.
Or was there another possibility?
Maybe they were lying about this whole thing.
Oh my God, he stabbed her.
Detectives figure there's one way to find out the truth.
Investigators obtained warrants for Keith and Valeria's cell phones, the GPS data, as well as Google data.
And the data suggests that Keith and his daughter have been lying to detectives.
Valeria's cell phone was pinging northwest in Druid Park.
The direct route to her apartment from DFW Hall, where they had dinner, didn't go anywhere near the park.
Investigators were able to determine that Keith and Valeria and Jacqueline were at Druid Hill Park for at least 12 to 16 minutes.
But what were they doing during that time?
Druid Hill Park isn't a place normally where an individual would pull over or stop at in the middle of the night.
It's a perfect place to commit a crime.
Hoping to learn why Keith might want to kill his wife, the detectives quietly reach out to the couple's relatives.
When they talked to Keith's brother, they found a possible motive.
He revealed to detectives that Jacquelyn Smith was unhappy.
Jacqueline had been talking about divorce.
A divorce would be a serious hit to Keith's lifestyle.
Jacqueline was the primary breadwinner, and the house was in Jacqueline's name. So Keith had everything to lose if Jacqueline was to walk away from him.
But if she died, Keith had a lot to gain.
It turns out that Jacqueline has a life insurance policy that would pay out a significant amount to Keith.
The detectives found that Keith was already making inquiries about a payout.
After learning of the pending divorce and the possible insurance motive, the detectives make Keith and his daughter the sole focus of their investigation.
The detectives got a court order for a tap on both of their cell phones.
Then the detectives turn up the heat by bringing Keith in for another round of questioning.
They inquire about the life insurance and Keith's interest in the proceeds.
He talks about needing the insurance payment for burial costs.
Do they cover it, the funeral and all that? It's going to get covered.
He gets emotional.
I wouldn't wish this on anybody, man. She's my soulmate.
Detectives don't confront him and let him know that they know he's lying and that his story does not add up. Instead, they bring Valeria back in for another interview.
Questioned by detectives, she repeats the story of how her stepmother was stabbed by a panhandler.
I've never seen anything like that before. That was the worst day of my life.
She didn't know it yet, but she was about to have another bad day.
Detectives confront her with what they know.
What would you say if I tell you your phone had you in Druid Hill Park for a substantial amount of time?
I don't know. I must have been asleep.
The detectives aren't buying it.
I'm gonna be honest with you. We know that's bull.
Though Valeria must know that the detectives know more than what they've disclosed, Valeria doesn't break.
I don't appreciate being called a liar.
She stops the interview.
I'm a lawyer. Okay, all right. Because this is crazy.
Invoking her right to seek an attorney suggests that she knows that she could be in criminal trouble.
The question is, what is her next move?
Detectives were hoping that she'd panic and contact her father about the police interview.
Investigators are listening to their conversations on a wiretap.
Authorities discovered that Keith and Valeria had rented a vehicle.
And the detectives have a pretty good idea where they're headed.
Detectives alert Texas authorities to ensure that Keith and Valeria do not flee the U.S.
Keith and his daughter Valeria are arrested in Texas, very close to the Mexico border.
Hands up, look forward, turn around, turn around.
Now all the authorities have to do is prove Keith did kill Jacqueline. And they get one step closer when shortly after Keith and his daughter are extradited back to Maryland, Valeria's attorneys reach out to the prosecutors.
She wants to cut a deal.
This was potentially a huge break for the prosecutors.
Valeria's testimony could be the key to convicting her father of murder. So when the detectives and prosecutors sit down with her, they make it clear what they want.
What we're trying to do is figure out the truth of exactly what happened to Jacquelyn Smith on the night of December 1st, 2018.
She agrees to not leave anything out and to tell the truth to the best of her recollection.
Although she claims her memory of that night is a little hazy.
I was doing drugs and I was drinking.
But she does remember one thing clearly.
My father stabbed her.
Jacquelyn Smith's stepdaughter, Valeria, has just told police and prosecutors that it wasn't a knife-wielding panhandler who killed the 54-year-old engineer. Instead, she says it was her father, Keith Smith.
Rode to a park, and while we were in the park, my father stabbed her.
But she claims that she didn't have anything to do with the murder.
Valeria told police that she did not know what her father's plans were that evening.
According to Valeria, she thought they were just going out to celebrate her birthday.
Keith and Jacqueline had taken her to the VFW American Legion for her birthday.
She could tell something wasn't right between Jacqueline and her father.
It definitely felt like it was like some tension.
But did she suspect that there could be a murder committed that evening? Not at all.
After leaving the VFW, she says she barely noticed when her dad took a detour to Druid Hill Park.
She says she wasn't paying attention. She was on her phone.
The car slowed down, and that's when I noticed that we was, in like the woods or whatever.
According to Valeria, Jacqueline never even noticed that much.
She states that Jacqueline had dozed off.
And while Jacqueline was still asleep, that's when she saw her father pull out a knife.
I see him reach and stab her.
Okay. And you're making a motion as
like
his right hand.
Yeah, she's sitting right here, and he stabbed her like this.
Because she was asleep, Jacqueline didn't know what hit her. She gasped, and then it was over.
Did you see how many times he stabbed her?
I don't remember how many times he stabbed her. I wasn't really even trying to, I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
She was stunned.
I just was just sitting there. I couldn't believe it.
Okay.
And I was just looking at him like he just looked like I didn't know who he was anymore.
What did you do, Dad?
Get out of the car!
And when he told me to get out the car, I was scared.
She said she was afraid that her father was going to kill her next.
Instead, he gave her an ultimatum.
She says her father said to her, "I'm going to make up a story, and you need to go along with it, or else we're both going to go to jail."
Calm down, calm down. We pulled up, we gave them money, and the panhandler did it. Look at me. You want me to go to jail? You want to go to jail?
She was panicked, in a bad state from the drugs. She agreed to go along with it.
Then, as they drove to the hospital, Keith called 911 and gave the operator the story he'd worked out.
I believe he's going to stab my wife. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Was he crying before he called 911?
No.
She says they got rid of the knife and threw it down a storm drain the night of the murder.
She also admitted she ditched Jacqueline's purse at the bus stop a few days after the murder.
He asked me to get rid of it, but to put it somewhere where someone would find it because he wanted somebody to use their card so it would look like a real panhandler did it.
When Keith goes on trial in December of 2021, his daughter is the prosecution's star witness.
When his daughter came into the courtroom,
to testify. It was as if she didn't even really want to look at him.
Valeria's statements were very damning to Keith.
But was the prosecution's star witness also their greatest weakness?
The defense bring up the fact that she's a drug addict. She has a history of lying, and she's only doing this to get herself off.
They attacked her for not turning in her father before they actually got caught.
The defense also didn't put Keith on the stand to refute anything or to tell his version of the story.
Will smearing Keith's daughter be enough to secure her father's acquittal?
In the end, the jury found Keith guilty of murder.
The judge sentenced him to life in prison.
The family felt justice had been served.
You want to go to jail?
But Keith Smith wasn't alone that night.
Valeria pleads guilty to being an accessory after the fact and gets 5 years in prison.
The prosecution needed her testimony to put Keith away.
And there's no doubt it was Keith who killed the woman he'd promised to love.
Jacquelyn Smith never thought it would be her husband who would take her life.
And he brought his own daughter in on it and destroyed his own family and destroyed another family as a result.
However, they weren't the only ones who suffered.
This man maligning people who were panhandling was incredibly harmful for Baltimore's homeless.
He stoked the lie that people who are homeless are a danger.
And that is something that Jacqueline would never have condoned.
Jacqueline was a loving person, an avid churchgoer, believed in God.
And, you know, we'll never get a kind woman back who was known as a very compassionate person.